There we go. Welcome. Good morning. Welcome to our first edition of First World Third Rails. Top of the morning to you. Your host here, Marlon Taylor, aka Mayhem, aka Mr. Disruptive, with his sidekick, none other than the great J.D. Wilson Jr.
I just have the average J.D. Wilson here. Do you want me to swap out?
No, you're great all times, everywhere, at all times. How you doing, brother?
I'm fine, thank you. I had a good weekend.
Our new home, our new world.
I'm happy to be here in here. I'm still on top of the world.
I see that. I'm still on top of the Space Needle.
That's good.
It's okay. I've got a license. I'm all right. I'm authorized.
Now, what made you say you had a license? Did you listen to the testimony from the congressional committee this morning?
Negative.
Negative. All right, because you sounded like Lindsey Graham there for a second.
Oh God, please forgive me, audience, if I sounded like Lindsey Graham. My God. No, I haven't listened, heard it. The only thing I'm up on is something that I predicted, which was Doc Rivers, coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, was going to be the scapegoat for their failed postseason, and he was. He has been released by the Philadelphia 76ers this morning.
Oh, wow. So I'm sorry to hear that. Joel Embiid is out to series. Mr. Harden's out to series.
Yep. But somehow this is Doc Rivers' fault. Whatever. And I've already predicted, and I hate to pull this card, but I'm going to pull it. I've already predicted that 2 Black coaches are going to be replaced by 2 white coaches. Monty Williams in Phoenix and now Doc Rivers in Philly. My suspicion is that they will be replaced by Mike Budenholzer, who formerly coach of Milwaukee, and Nick Nurse, former coach of Toronto, in each of those respective cities. And they're good coaches. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say they sound.
They're very good coaches. Both have won championships. But Monty Williams and Doc Rivers are really, really, really good coaches, and neither deserve to be fired. Both will be hired fairly quickly.
Now, when a coach is fired, do they get the monies that were on their original contract?
Correct.
Well, good. So there.
Yeah. So they'll still get paid out. The NBA has become, as everybody knows, the players have more control than any other professional league. And so when they don't live up to expectations, you don't fire the player, you don't fire Kevin Durant, you don't fire DeAndre Ayton, you fire the coach.
That sounds reasonable to me.
It is what it is.
They get paid. So if somebody came to me and said, I want you to architect maximum dollars, I'd say, well, ideally, I would get fired every other year.
Right. Right.
And by the 5th year, I'd be receiving my salary from 3 different teams.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
It's a great plan.
So we'll see how that all transpires. I know tonight is game 1 of Lakers Nuggets. And,
Lakers got through.
Oh, yeah. So I'm excited. That is going to prompt. Steve Kerr is not going to be fired in Golden State. I can assure you that. But there are going to be changes with that. I had a brief discussion about this last night. Is this where Golden State puts a fork in the road and kind of dissolves the core that has represented that organization so well over the last 6 years? I don't know. They've got some tough decisions to make behind the loss to the Lakers, but I don't know if I'm Golden State, I may keep that nucleus together one more year.
Well, basically what you do, you go into a conference room and you'd bring in your special guest consultant, Father Time.
Yep.
And he'll come in, and you would be obligated at some point to look at the metrics associated with human beings who play that sport for the past 5 decades, and the metrics associated with age.
Yep. We know about that all too well.
Yeah, that's again, as a layperson, that's one of the interesting things about Stephen Curry, if he can somehow keep from getting railroaded or steamrolled or, a broken bone or something like that.
Steph's going to be
downtown for a long time.
Steph's going to be fine. He's 35, 36. He's going to be fine. He's not the question. And Steve Kerr will, I think, as long as Steph's there, as long as my understanding from a Golden State fan is that if you recall, the incident with Jordan Poole and Draymond Green before the season started, the fight at practice, stemmed from Draymond really acting out against Jordan Poole against comments that were made about Steve Kerr. So in other words, Draymond Green will go to war for Steve Kerr any day of the week, and Jordan Poole spoke ill of him, and that's what triggered that exchange. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them. I think Steph's going to stay there. I don't know what happened to Clay and Thompson in this series. Jordan Poole, I think, is on the way out. And Draymond Green has been year to year for the last couple of years. Now, Draymond already has a door waiting for him the moment he retires. He's making that transition like Chuck, like Shaq, to TV. He's done inside the NBA for TNT in the studio. He's been in the studio. He'll most likely be in there during these conference finals. He is well suited to make that transition. He's very good at it. So his afterlife is set.
There you go. So what are your third this weekend?
What's that?
What were your third rails this weekend?
I bought new patio furniture. That's still in the box.
It hurts so bad.
It's still in the box, mind you. I didn't get it put together.
Is it tragic?
No.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if you had experienced any tragedy or third rails.
No, I got the grill cleaned. The only tragedy we experienced is that we went into Lowe's, because I don't shop at Home Depot anymore because of their affiliation to the orange maggot. So we went to Lowe's.
Are you serious? You don't shop at Lowe's, or you don't shop at Home Depot?
I don't shop at Home Depot.
Oh, so you actually don't go there anymore?
No, and it's close. It is the closest to me of all the three, of Aces, Lowe's, Home Depot. Home Depot is literally right around the meth corner, because that's where all the meth heads hang out, at Home Depot.
All right. Well, once we get the update on your patio furniture, I'd like to hear about the Home Depot situation. I wasn't aware that.
Yeah, they're a big supporter of the orange maggot.
Okay.
So I'll go out of my way to go to Lowe's before I go to Home Depot. If I go to Home Depot, it's an emergency.
So,
Bottom line. So yeah, that was
rail if you have an emergency.
That was the only third rail. We're in Lowe's, and it really depicted the state of where we are.
Where are we?
Nobody wants to work. I mean, they had no one. It took literally almost 45 minutes just to get someone to help us, because Ellen settled in on her choice of what she wanted, because she wanted some furniture that was comfortable. And so once we settled in on the choice
and stylish,
we had to get somebody to get that selection out of stock. And it was way up in the rafters, so they had to bring over a forklift. We had to find somebody to find a person to get the forklift to get it down.
And they had to get two people, so one could walk with the flag while the other one went boop, 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 boop.
It was a process, because nobody's there.
Well, I can tell you what happens when I have that situation. It ends up like this. Sir, you're going to have to get down from there.
Oh, Marlon Taylor ain't climbing anything. Marlon Taylor was sitting.
My wife is like, dear God, not again.
Marlon Taylor was sitting in the floor model furniture for an hour, going through his phone, couldn't do Twitter because I'm banned, and just waiting on somebody to get somebody to get somebody to get what we needed.
All right, so let me know when you're done with that dialogue.
That was it.
You know,
That was
I can turn anything into a conversation about the
that
human.
was it. That was the third rail. That was the third
Okay,
rail.
so that's it. So I like this. So I want you to put yourself in Lowe's shoes for a second.
And
They
this is gonna be
literally are responding to what people want. So when you go in there and it's a wasteland and there's very little humanity, that's because that's the way shoppers want it.
I don't know that I would completely agree with that.
Well, actually, I want to go somewhere with this, because there's a concept that we're not constantly affecting things, and it's the old butterfly effect.
Oh, I agree with that we are,
Right,
but I don't
so-
agree with the fact that that's the way we want it.
It is the way we want it, because none of us will pay a premium to Lowe's when we can get it someplace else.
I just paid a premium to Lowe's.
Okay, hold on.
I just paid a premium.
Let's take your transaction, and you needed something that was up high, so you actually required some involvement, right?
Right.
But yours is an unusual transaction. It was was it a 6-figure or a 4-figure transaction?
Uh,
A 3-figure or a 4-figure?
Ultimately ended up being a 4-figure, because that wasn't the only thing we bought. We bought some other stuff.
Right. That's the exception to the rule. Most people are going in and buying a power tool or buying some stuff. And then really a lot of their money comes from contractors, because contractors can't sit around waiting for Amazon to send them stuff.
Right.
But the average consumer has already voted and said, that's the top line. That's all the money I'm going to give anybody anywhere for this.
I don't know if I agree with that. And here's why I don't know if I agree with that.
You don't have to agree or disagree. It's already happened. In other words, it doesn't require your opinion to exist. It already exists. It's already, these determinations have already been made.
That's fine. I would only add to this conversation that I met at a minimum 4 people sitting there amongst the floor model furniture, 4 people, all 4 who had been waiting an extended period of time, all 4 who were looking for assistance. And I did. So the patio furniture was one thing.
You know what? You just explained the issue, because you had 4 people simultaneously, which contributed to the delay.
Right. But all 4 want assistance.
Now,
so if we wanted it,
I'm saying there's only assistance provided in under the best case for one. You must have you went on a weekend, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Early Saturday morning.
Oh, okay. If you're going to redo it, you probably go on a weekday.
But this is a rebuttal to what you just said. If we wanted that, then we wouldn't have created that situation.
Okay, hold on. Yours are not the only transactions that cross the ledger.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. What I'm saying
is that in aggregate, the price of things in retail stores is capped, and it's capped by its availability online.
We all know that.
And there's a very, very tiny sliver that Lowe's or Home Depot or Ace can charge, right?
Right.
To support the labor.
Right.
Okay. Right. So the economics of this are being dictated by consumers, and consumers are building in delays due to a paucity of labor. So what I'm saying is that every consumer every day is making this decision to diminish the labor content of retail operations. And I like the way you're presenting it. In other words, if you think about it, you just presented it in a very, very civilized manner. You said, I went, it was an aggravation. I had to sit there in the section for an hour.
Which is why
but you don't have any enmity in your voice or any anger. I think it's probably like, it's unfortunate it has to be that way, but it sounds like you recognize that it has to be. And all of us are going to be living that way from now on.
Well, one, I realize that we live in a different world. And to your point, that world that I experienced on Saturday is the anomaly and outlier. In other words,
To me,
and
like it's
no,
it's
it's
the
the
middle
out.
of the bell curve now.
No, it's the outlier. It's the outlier.
You can't do a bell curve.
Because, and the reason I say it's the outlier is because Amazon has changed everything, the landscape. So rather than go to Lowe's and sit there for an hour, I can just go online, order it from Amazon, have them deliver it. I put it together and I move on. I don't have
Right.
to
So it
deal
seems
with
like
that.
we're in complete agreement here.
I don't have to deal with that. So what happened on Saturday was the outlier where Marlon is saying, okay, let's go in to
In
make sure that we're getting what we want. And there's some other things we had to get. And in fact, because I couldn't get help, because I ran into 4 people who were equally frustrated, equally waiting, equally trying to find somebody to help them, I sat down and said, you know what? Here's how I'm going to deal with this and address this. I took my phone out. I went to Lowe's.com and I'm trying to match an umbrella to a base because I needed to replace my umbrella on the back of the house. And so rather than find a salesperson to verify that I've got the right base with the right umbrella, I just went out to go online since I'm sitting here waiting anyway, and I will do it online, which is exactly what I did and determined, okay, right base, right umbrella.
So did you make the purchase online?
No.
But you
Now
actually
that
made
I
the
will,
determination that you had a question for a salesperson who never
who
materialized
never
and
materialized.
answered your own question. Again, so these are decisions that we're making through our behaviors. That's a standard behavior with Amazon. And now you just, it's an interesting point. You just redirected it to your physical
Now,
presence at Lowe's.
one thing I will give this new world credit for, and
Okay, good.
depending on who you are, depending on if it's my parents are they're throwing a hissy fit in that store because
Oh, you just nailed it. I was really glad you went there.
they expect to have someone to answer their questions and verify that this is what I'm here to buy, and then help me and assist me completing that cycle. So there are a number of things. So I had to get a flatbed truck once I got the box down, because that had to go on to, this is about 200 pounds, probably 150. That had to go on the flatbed. Then I've got a cart that has everything in it: chairs, umbrellas, base.
One of those flat carts?
That was for the furniture.
Oh, so you have 2 carts.
I got 2 carts.
Ah,
So I've got 2 carts. There are 0 humans at checkout anymore. 0.
they're down to 0 at Lowe's?
0. And I'm like, son of a, I didn't even notice that, right? And so we get into the line, we get to the checkout, and it's all automated.
Every
Now,
last
I give them credit. The UPC labels were easily accessible by the gun to scan, the scanner gun. So that really kind of, because if you got UPC labels that you can't read, it just becomes a fiasco. But it was a smooth process. And then came, they're like, Ellen's like, hey, can we get some assistance? Because if the first question we asked, would this fit in our car? The guy was like, what kind of car do you have? And we got like an Audi SUV. And he goes, do the seats go down in the back? And we're like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you should be good. You should be okay. It was tight. In fact, there's a component, kind of one of those, I don't know what you'd call it, almost like a shade that sits in the very back cargo area of the SUV. I had to take that out. Then there's a floor mat that sits in the cargo area. I had to pull that out because the box wouldn't clear the the floor mat once I got the seats down. So I had to do a lot of jerry rigging, but everything got in, which was amazing because I had an umbrella, I had to stand, I had 2 butterfly chairs, the furniture box itself, some other crap, but it all fit. And no one showed up, so I'm out there trying to jerry rig and change, and Elle's like, oh God, he's going to ruin his back. And I'm like, nah, it's fine. I know what to do.
It's already ruined.
It's already ruined, right? You can't ruin that anymore.
All right, so as third rails go, that one's not too bad, but it is a recognition that everything's changing.
Everything
Never
has
changing
changed,
that.
to your point, and Amazon is at the spear of that change, because why do I ever have to leave my house again when I have Amazon?
Well, I saw something today.
What is there at Amazon that I can't buy that I can buy anywhere else? There's nothing.
There's nothing. With the possible
Weed,
exception of
maybe.
Jello. No, I guess
Weed.
Jello you could get.
Jello and weed, maybe weed.
A cup of
Yeah.
hot coffee. So Starbucks might be the only thing that remains.
It won't be hot, but that's where I buy my coffee. I love dark French roast coffee. So I buy a 5-pound bag because my coffee maker is a grinder, auto grinder. And so I buy 2 5-pound bags, which last me, I don't know, a couple of months. In fact,
All
I
right,
need to
so I
realize
fished the
right now.
third rail out of you, which is the diminishing return on retail shopping labor.
Yeah.
But
I knew that.
everybody's aware of that. You actually already touched on it. You said the older generation is going to bitch and moan about it, but it doesn't matter. It's too late. It's already been decided.
It's already, you go into a Target, you go into a Fred Meyer, you
I've
go
heard the
into
same
a
thing
Lowe's.
about Target.
Yes. They're all automated now.
There's no money to pay for human beings to mill about the place.
No.
All right. So anything else? I've come across a couple of third rails.
Oh, by all means.
So I started watching, I have a couple here. So I started watching the congressional testimony from Sam Altman,
Ugh. All right.
OpenAI.
Oh yeah. I've seen a couple of snippets. I haven't.
Which
at
ones
all.
did you see?
I can't even remember. I know that the hearings started, testimony started, but I have no idea how it's going, what he said.
All righty. So
Congress, man. But anyway.
No, you nailed it. You nailed it. So this is a unique situation. And Dick Durbin actually did a short monologue, which was amazing in and of itself. It was a short monologue.
I like Dick Durbin.
And he actually made an interesting point. He said, we're at a curious inflection here when an industry is sitting in chambers, and they're champions of regulation.
Right.
Now, what's interesting, and here's where the third rail comes in, because this is a huge argument. Because there probably is no senator who understands this stuff. I'm going to go out on a limb. Somebody can argue with me and they can point out an individual who actually understands how large language models
Let me
work.
clear that up for you. There is no senator who understands this stuff.
Okay, so what we've done now is we've turned over whatever considerations are going to be made at the holistic government level.
Okay.
Regarding artificial intelligence are going to be made by the least informed human beings on the subject.
Who will have input from those who are informed? Now, the question
No.
is,
The people that are informed, they will have agendas. They will not have a single, if you can reach a senator, you have an agenda and you're funded. Apart from talking to them at an Iowa corn cob thing or meeting them on the street per chance, there really is no circumstance where they're going to intersect with somebody who doesn't have an agenda the morning. They wake up and they say, I'm going to intersect with a senator or a congressman today, and they have an objective.
I'd be careful with that one. And Bill Gates is my example to that. Because Bill knows we need guardrails with AI. Bill knows we need regulatory guidance with AI, or else it'll be used for a nefarious purpose. So he understands that. The question here is, will those who know nothing, like Dick Durbin, listen to people like Bill Gates? And secondarily, will they act upon what they're hearing in the right way? There are people out there who understand we need to have guide rails for this technology, as we've had for every technology that has evolved, internet, cloud, blah, blah, blah. So this is no different. Are you going to listen? You're right. There are those out there with an agenda that have the pockets and the mind and the ear of our politicians who only listen to one thing, money. But there's also a percentage out there that I think know that we need to have guardrails, know that we have to have safety measures in place, know that we need to have some level and form of regulation so this isn't abused.
All right. So I saw something today. Let me tell you what it is, and then we can go from there. What I saw today was a preemptive move from Sam Altman and OpenAI. And whether this is deliberate or not, I'm not going to put that tag on it.
Okay.
But if you look into concerns that the large firms have, they have primary concerns about third parties generating large language models and then using them.
Yep.
This is the concept of no moat. And a document was leaked where Google was speculating that they were already at an incredible disadvantage because third parties were building large language models and they were going to be unregulated.
Okay.
Now, you have Meta, you have Microsoft, to a lesser extent, you have Apple, but you're going to shortly have XAI, which is Elon Musk, and of course you have Google.
Yep.
So these corporations do not want end runs around their control. And they are championing regulation, but they're championing regulation to keep small players from being able to license their technologies and license their efforts. So it has already started. I did not consider what I saw today a good faith effort. Because,
by good faith effort by who?
well, they don't understand the technology, so technically they cannot have a good faith effort. What I think they're going to do is they're going to champion some type of above the water, tip of the iceberg regulation. And it's going to allow them to aggregate power because it will be problematic for small firms to develop some of these models.
Okay.
Yeah. There's another thing that is completely misunderstood is the large language model. What it has done, it has allowed the creation of vector stores based on 100, in the case of OpenAI, it was 175 billion individual references.
Okay.
In the case of the Palm E, nobody's sure, but they think they may have gone to 1 trillion. Now, what it's done is it's allowed these models to understand what would happen next. And the presumption on the part of most people is that the information that they're dealing with is in the large language model. It's in the
Right.
E model, or it's in the chat GPT model.
Right.
And that's not true. What has happened is those models have created the ability to actually formulate logical conclusions,
Okay.
but you can actually submit a paragraph and you give this instruction. You say, only focus on this paragraph. And the large language model now will ingest that paragraph. It'll ignore everything else it's learned, except it will have the comprehension ability, and it will apply it to that paragraph. So the concept that regulating these large language models does a damn thing, it's too late. It's already too late, because anybody, including me, can drop a paragraph or a document onto a large language model that will use that logic, but not the contents. It'll just use the contents of what I give it, and it'll make the normal associations that you would expect and create something called a vector store and produce an output. And this output can be predicated entirely on what I just told it. It's no longer referencing the world. It's no longer referencing the internet. It's just referencing the document, the treatise. What do they call that when somebody, I can't believe this word escaped me. When somebody is a mass murderer and then you go back and you found out that they wrote what was that called?
Manifesto.
A manifesto. So the point is that with a large language model like ChatGPT or a large language model like Palm E, you can submit a manifesto and then you can create materials based exclusively on that manifesto. So the AI doesn't know that it's not dealing with a worldview. It doesn't care. It just takes whatever inputs it has and it deals with those. That's already done. It's already happening.
Right,
It's too
right,
late.
right.
So this idea of regulating language models is the kind of simplistic solution that a senator or a congressman would come up with, because they don't understand that it is not the language in the model, it is the resulting logic capabilities that have evolved from all these points and can now be applied to any inputs.
So how do we fix that?
We don't. That's the whole point. I'm going to give you an analogy. There was a really good analogy. I'm going to say it's a good analogy. I don't know if it is, and nobody else has made this analogy.
Okay.
But the Russians are in a pickle right now. The Russians have been able to basically hold back Ukrainian missiles. Now, have you heard that the British gave them Storm Shadow missiles?
Yep.
All right. So the issue with Storm Shadow missiles is that they are cruise missiles and they have a rocket engine. And you can have a surface to surface, and that's a substantial charge. But if you can get a missile with 1,300, with a substantial warhead up in the air and fire it at an altitude of 30,000 feet, all you do is you come in and it can traverse a vast distance, and then it can cruise in and come in underneath radar. And then what the Ukrainians have also been awarded are devices from the United States that come in front of the cruise missile, and they confuse the radar on the ground. So at this point, the Russians, as of literally UK awarding them and sending them these Storm Shadows, are no longer able to stop the Ukrainians from blowing up entire buildings way behind the front line. So what they have to do now is they have to go bomb the airplanes. So the cruise missiles are a fait accompli. They cannot stop them. They need to switch their sights, find out where the Ukrainians' airfields are, and they need to bomb the airplanes. So that's kind of what needs to happen here. And the analogy, I'm not sure where you get a chokehold on artificial intelligence. I'm afraid you don't. That's the problem.
That would be my speculation, is that you don't.
You remember when Bitcoin came out?
Oh, God.
Well, the thing about Bitcoin was that it needed a GPU to really be efficient. In order to make money, you had to have a GPU, and the more GPUs you had, which is usually an NVIDIA product. So building these large language models, this is the reason I say it's already out of the gate, because when Microsoft supported OpenAI, if you look at it, they didn't give them cash, they gave them credits, and they gave them unfettered access to Microsoft Azure over a period of several years to aggregate and build these models on GPUs.
Right.
So now that the models have an understanding of how humans think and how to string concepts together, you can submit new material into that, it will do it. So I don't know where you go to destroy the airplanes that are delivering the cruise missiles in this context. Senate doesn't know.
No, hell no.
They didn't get to the bottom of it during the course of what I saw.
No, they never will. They don't have the comprehension.
They will after the fact.
They don't have the comprehension to understand the technology.
So I don't know where it stops. I don't know whether I don't think there's anything we can do. The only thing.
Oh, there's something we can do.
Oh, what is it?
We can listen to people who know. We can listen to the experts. We can listen to those who know what the hell they're talking about.
Well, they had the expert of all experts in there. And the question was posed, how would we regulate this? And his response was, the primary creator of ChatGPT, would love to work with you on this. So he is, 10,000 times smarter than either you or I. He's sitting there. They pose him a question. He wants to have some type of contribution, and the best he can do is say, well, we're willing to work with you on this to try to figure it out. So he did not arrive there with a solution. He doesn't know how to keep cruise missiles out of the air and from destroying everything.
But he's smart enough to get in a room with other smart people and figure it out.
I'm going to agree with you, but that was my opening gambit. It's a problem because I can't think of a way to do it because
we're not smart enough.
Models are already developed.
We're not smart enough. They are smart enough to get in a room and figure it out. The only question, back to my original statement, and this is where I'm the glass half empty. The only question is, will Congress acquiesce to smarter people getting in a room and figuring it out and listening to them?
All right. So we're mutually agreed. And I have caveated all of this with the most important thing has already occurred, which is the creation of the large language models.
Yes.
And the next point that I made that I thought was germane is that if you have access or you gain entry to that room, you will be typically a sponsored expert. One of the very few experts who's no longer sponsored was the guy who resigned from Google. And I think it was Turbin. I'm having Turbin, which is like Durpin. Durbin.
Right. Durbin.
Just by happenstance, they're very similar.
Durbin and
But
Turbin.
look at his situation. If he were not 75 years old, if he were still 57, he would not resign. He would not be available. George Hinton. So if Hinton's available, he would be an example of somebody who's not currently aggressively trying to extend his portfolio and his career and achieve world dominance. So somebody like George Hinton or Bill Gates, yes, those might be people who would be able to come up with some type of solution. But I don't see that solution being accepted because any type of restriction on income is problematic for a corporation. They don't want those type of regulations. And the type of regulations they're inviting actually extend their revenue capabilities by making it harder for smaller, non-major firms to compete. Those are the kind of regulations they want.
Would you prefer lawsuits? No.
Well, actually, this was an excellent point.
Simple question. Would you prefer, as a large,
what it's worth, that came up,
as a large corporation
from Minnesota,
I believe your comment about large corporations, but would you prefer lawsuit over diminished revenue? No.
Oh, hold on. This is actually a really good conversation. I love your question. And the answer is yes. I would prefer unfettered revenue with lawsuits. And Amy Klobuchar brought this up. She said, it is crystal clear that by 2025, we will have lost a substantial number of local publications. They're going to be destroyed. And she said, the issue is that all of these services are sweeping up their product, repackaging it, and delivering it with no fee returned to the originator. This happens to artists, it happens to musicians, and it's happening to news organizations.
It happened to music.
So Amy Klobuchar said, well, the problem is that not all these little relatively small organizations can't sue their way to profitability to recover all of the damages.
Right.
So she actually cited what you just did, which is suing large corporations will not produce the desired result for any party. It can't be done. You can't sue them for enough, and the process takes too long, and you're out of business anyway. So that avenue is actually no longer available, and it's obfuscated.
I don't know about that. I'd be careful with that. I don't know about that.
Well, my obligation is to have an opinion. And again, I'm not trying to change your mind. That's
no. I'm just saying that
it's Amy Klobuchar's opinion.
I don't think that ship has left the dock yet.
Well, Amy Klobuchar and I agree.
Okay.
That you cannot sue your way to recompense.
By what year did you say she said?
Well, well, she said 2025, but it's kind of immaterial. We know
All
that
right.
there's a
All right.
decision.
Up 2025. I'm marking that year down. We will just see.
Well, we've already lost most.
God willing. God willing.
We've lost most local TV stations to Sinclair Broadcasting.
Yes,
So
we have.
that is a loss in and of itself. So aggregation, all of these things were actually just putting things out that are then immediately snatched up and redelivered through a Google search or a Bing.
Yep.
Google announced stuff. Did you see any of their announcements?
No.
Okay, you'll love this one. Google is actually championing this. That means that Sergey Pinchuk, whoever the CEO is on stage, and he thinks this is good. He says, Google Workspace, Gmail, will write your emails.
Well,
They're offering to have human beings not even write an email anymore. And I'm looking at that and I'm like,
I know.
I don't want it. I don't want it. I just want it to go away.
Oh,
And,
but you do.
well, somebody
We're
does, or do they?
We're steamrolling down that path. To the Lowe's analogy, oh, but you do want it because we're steamrolling down that path.
You must be right, because I'm part of they or we.
Right.
I can't stop it.
No.
Now you can do something like you did. You went to Lowe's and you sat there for an hour and you bought it there. So you actually contributed like a butterfly.
Right.
You might have added 27 nanoseconds to Lowe's corporate life.
Maybe.
So between the four of you there, you might have added another minute
and a half,
3 seconds to Lowe's corporate life, or you might have delayed the closing of that particular store by 4 minutes.
Right.
Now, whether people repeat that every weekend and go in and actually
unlikely
buy product in such a fashion that they delay the store closing by
it's a fairly large store. They've been there for years. I think they've got a road out ahead of them in terms of sustainability, but the landscape is changing. Well, because I go back to my original point. Name me something that you can't have an Amazon truck delivered to you.
Well, that doesn't exist.
Right.
There's no such thing.
There's no such thing.
So as third rails go, there's going to be a lot of people on either side of that one.
Yeah.
And I don't know who we'll trust.
The same people we've been trusting for 60 plus years.
Who's that?
Ourselves.
Well, there is actually.
We trust ourselves to make the decision that's best for us.
There is actually some hope here.
Hey, I'm going to let you put a bow on this with that hope, and I want to circle. I've got to circle back to something, but go ahead with because I need a ray of hope in that whole.
All right, so I'm going to close it out with this because we're going to be obligated to come back to this many times. Every single human endeavor results in some type of left and some type of right, sometime a negative, some type of positive, low, high. Right. So that means that we're going to have personal AI or AI protection.
Yes, we will.
Like you're gonna pick a vendor, and that vendor is going to craft an AI that takes all of your personal interests, and it's going to actually protect you. It's going to run on your devices in your world, and you're going to say, I want to be a highfalutin, morals-driven, principle-centered individual, and I would like to only hear about things that have at least 4 solid references from the few remaining reliable news organizations. And it will actually create what amounts to a force field around you and you'll be able to tune your environment. So the flip side, of course, is if you're MAGA, you're going to be all MAGA all the time, and we're going to end up
which they are already.
AI extended down their own personal.
We're already there with them.
Yeah, it's
So
just going to get more profound. All right, so I'm done. I'm pulling out. That's a bow on this particular third rail.
I got to circle back on something.
Okay.
And as you know, I try and be specific with the percentage of sports topics that we discuss, because I love getting your input. I know we're on different levels there.
Yeah, I'm a sports layperson, and my interest in sports are almost always the human element rather than.
Well,
You know,
this is
like
perfect.
standings and stuff, I
This
don't
is
pay attention.
a perfect topic then to circle back to. Third rails, for those who know, if you're on the subway tracks or train tracks, what do they always tell you? Don't
What-
touch the third rail. What happens when you touch the third rail? Exactly. Guess who touched the third rail?
Everybody all the time.
No, one in particular. And there's a reason I'm bringing this up, because I
Was it religion, family,
No,
race?
no. It was Ja Morant.
John Morant. I haven't heard about him recently.
Ja
Last
Morant,
was
what's
on
today?
probation?
What is today? Tuesday?
Tuesday.
On Sunday morning, I learned that another video surfaced on Instagram with Ja Morant brandishing a weapon.
Is that the exact same thing that created all the headaches for him before? You know, there's a.
And here's why I'm bringing this up.
Dude.
It's one of the lessons that I preach constantly. And I'm gonna expand the analogy here. If you're a drug addict and you're trying to get clean, you got to stop hanging out with drug addicts.
That's an interesting concept.
If you're an alcoholic and you're trying to stay sober, you can't hang out with alcoholics.
Well, you can, but the result is foreordained. It's preordained.
You can't if you're trying to stay sober. You
Right.
can't.
Oh, okay. I understand. That's the qualification. If you're trying to stay sober, if you're
Yes.
trying to stop doing drugs.
Yes. Yes. So if you have $100 million and you want that $100 million, you can't hang out and play toy gangster, because you're going to lose that $100 million. In other words,
Well, he's not, but
and as everybody has, all the talking heads has stated, and I was the first one to state, I'm not surprised at this at all. Yes, I remember 3 months ago in March when the first episode happened. You know, I'm getting counseling. I'm trying to be a better person. I'm trying to manage, the emotion, blah, 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 blah. I don't care what you say. I didn't care what you said in March. It's not about what you say. It's about what you do. You're going to be judged on actions, not words. And we're 3 months from you saying, oh, I've had this epiphany. I've got to be a better person. I've got to manage.
How many months are we from it?
3.
3. Well, do you remember? I'll wait till you're done. I'm sorry.
No.
All right. So to recap, we're watching a repeat.
Yes, less than 3 months from the first episode.
I assume it's at a club somewhere.
No, it was in a car.
Oh my God. So he's out on the road.
For all the talking heads that have been talking about this since Sunday, I said this to my better half last night. there's one component of this that's not being discussed. And that is the inherent danger that Ja Morant has put himself in. Because this is the second time now you've posted a video to Instagram with you brandishing a weapon. So down the road, if you happen to have beef with someone, a real someone from the hood, he knows that typically you are packing or strapped or whatever it is you think you're doing. He knows this. So what do you think he's going to do? He's going to
make
beat
a
you.
preemptive move. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Just
All right. So
but,
you may
and
recall,
this is before we even get to the money component of this.
well, you may recall that part of what we argued about the last time is I didn't think it was a big deal. Do you remember?
Which you were wrong.
Well, I
I
mean,
love you, but you were wrong.
well, I'm frequently wrong, and it doesn't deter me from being wrong again.
Right.
So when he was in a club with his homies at 3 a.m. in the morning and he brandished a weapon, I didn't think it was a big deal because I just thought he was a guy who's in his early 20s and he's doing stuff with his posse. So I actually didn't have trouble with it, and I didn't
And you
think.
were wrong. And you were wrong.
Okay, we.
He represents
Hold
the
on.
he represents the National Basketball Association.
You know, I don't give a shit about that stuff.
That's wrong.
I don't think that's a compelling reason. I don't think it matters.
We'll go talk to Adam Silver, see if he thinks it matters.
No, okay, on the flip side, when I say I don't think it matters, I don't begrudge the NBA taking any action that they want to take. They're running a business. There is a
Why are they taking action? Because it's wrong.
Yeah, but there's no moral position here.
There is a moral position here.
There's no moral position.
There's a code of ethics as a member.
Code of ethics. Well, a code of ethics.
As a member
of somebody.
As a member of the National Basketball Association.
Oh, that's just image. I don't.
As a member of the National Basketball Association, you are held to a standard and code of ethics, just as if you would be as a member of Microsoft, as a member of Amazon, as
well,
a member
so
of
he's prepared to face the consequences. But I'm telling you that I personally don't consider it a moral issue. I consider it a logistics nightmare. I consider it a problematic situation, but I'm not going to pass moral judgment.
That's exactly why you're here and not running as commissioner of the National Basketball Association.
Well, for starters.
That is why you're in that seat.
Down to one thing.
That is why you're in that seat.
This is something that I tell my kids. This is something I tell my kids. I'm like, honey, keep in mind that when I'm getting in your business, it's because I'm programmed to try to protect you. And so over the years, as you've gotten older, you've trained me not to be in your business as much, and you've demonstrated that I can take a breath because you will do the right thing. So in this case, the NBA is like the parent, and they're obligated to get involved because the kid is still.
Has nothing to do with that. Has nothing to do with that.
I'm just saying I don't consider it moral. You're saying it's like a moral obligation, and I don't think so. I think it's just a logistics nightmare. And if he wants to behaving this way.
JD.
Yes.
Whether it's basketball, football, hockey, baseball, you are beholden to a standard and a code. Period. Period. You might not agree with that, but that if you were to go and I'm sure you could do it online, and get a copy of the Players Association agreement in the NFL, there is a code, a standard of code of ethics and behavior.
And you're welcome as an individual to violate that code. It's not a moral situation.
There's a consequence to violating that.
We're mutually agreed. Everything we're saying, we're in complete agreement, but I don't view him as being immoral.
All right, we will table that argument.
Why?
Bottom
Why
line,
would we table something that we're in agreement on?
because you're wrong. It's immoral. It's immoral.
It's
It's
not
immoral.
immoral. People's behavior is not necessarily immoral. Shooting somebody is immoral. Flashing a gun in a
We'll
car
agree
is
to disagree.
stupid,
We'll
but it's
agree to
not immoral.
disagree. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. We'll agree to disagree on that. It's immoral.
Okay, hold on.
No.
Did he have a license to carry?
I don't know. Unlikely.
Well, he
Unlikely.
does have a license to carry.
How many hoodlums do you know have an actual license for the firearms there? Their firearms aren't registered. How many hoodlums in the hood do you know take the time to license their
By
firearms?
your own admission, you don't know if it is registered. If it is registered,
Unlikely.
what state was he in? Tennessee?
I don't know
Memphis?
this. It doesn't matter.
What the hell? It doesn't matter. There are
doesn't matter.
states where you have a right to carry, and if it's a licensed
If
gun,
he is
nothing
Joe
wrong. He did something
Schmo,
stupid, and he
if
violated principles related to the NBA.
if
Let's be
he
very
is
specific.
if he is Joe Schmo,
being-
if he is Joe Schmo, it doesn't matter. But he's not Joe Schmo. He's a member of the National Basketball Association.
Yeah, but he enjoys the
He
protections that Joe
is in
Schmo.
violation of their standards, code of ethics, and rules.
All right, we've
Period.
agreed to that. We're not arguing that point. You're saying that he did something wrong, and I'm just trying to put it on an axis. He did something
No, there's
wrong
no
by
axis.
NBA
There's
standards.
No. There's no axis. There's no axis. There is a standard and code of ethics. You either live to it or you don't.
All right. I think Tennessee probably has some pretty liberal gun laws.
Okay.
Of gun
I
laws.
think the National Basketball Association has some pretty strict laws and rules about guns.
Right, and he needs to adhere to those because he signed a document.
Correct.
Right, but it's very specific. Okay, Tennessee has relatively lax gun ownership laws. Anyone over the age of 18 can purchase a
that's
handgun or
irrelevant
rifle
here.
from a licensed dealer, and there
That's
is no state required background checks.
That's irrelevant here.
It's totally relevant. He
No,
was
it isn't.
within. Listen,
No, it isn't.
if I'm John Morant, I'm like, you people are starting to piss me
Then
off.
guess
I'm
what?
allowed to
Guess
carry
what?
a firearm.
Guess what? You're welcome to do that. You're welcome, based on the state laws of Tennessee, you're welcome to do that. Let me tell you what happens next.
Okay,
You're
hold
not-
on. No, I need to
No,
read
no,
this.
no.
I need
No,
to read
no, no,
this.
no,
I need
no.
to read this. Let me read this and then I'll shut up and you can make your point about what happens next. Tennessee also has relatively lax laws on carrying firearms. As of July 2021, anyone over the age of 21 can carry a handgun openly or concealed without a permit.
Great.
Open or concealed without a permit. So
Great.
John Morant is
Great.
a dumbass for getting caught on video with a gun, but he did nothing immoral or illegal.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
Not illegal. Not illegal.
Not illegal,
Immoral.
not immoral,
Yes.
but he signed a contract that said, I won't do this kind of stuff.
Which
and-
makes you immoral when you do it.
That's not morality. There's no thing that a corporation has you
Okay,
sign
let me
a
tell you what
contract
happens
that's moral.
next. Let me tell you what happens next.
Corporations,
Based on the laws,
they are
based-
by definition immoral.
Let me tell you what happens next. Based on the laws of Tennessee, which you just so eloquently shared,
Right, nothing happens.
you are no longer a member of the National Basketball Association. You are no longer going to get millions from Nike.
Did they
You
kick
are
him
no
out?
longer going
Okay,
to
getting billions from Nike is immaterial to this. That's just a stupid, it's just a stupid decision.
It's easy for you to say that because
I
you're not
just said
getting
it. It was a stupid decision.
It's
We're agreed.
easy for you to say that
Is
because
he
you're not
kicked out of the
getting-
NBA?
He's going to be suspended.
Big fucking deal. He's still gonna get
JD,
money after
JD,
he's
let's
and he's
JD.
still gonna get a supermax contract after that.
No, he is not.
Oh,
No,
yes,
he
he
is not.
is.
No,
He was
is
the
not.
number two. He
JD,
was the number two behind that other guy, Duke.
JD, you've kind of drifted out of the bounds of what you are qualified to comment on. I love you, and I'm just telling you.
I'm not commenting. I'm commenting on human behavior and corporate initiatives. So Zion Williamson was the #1 pick, and he's barely played. He played like 80 games over 4 years, right?
The apples and oranges.
John Morant. Now hold on. John Morant was the #2 pick, and he has performed extremely well and taken the Grizzlies into playoff contention. Agreed?
What does that have to do with what we're talking
That means that John Morant is actually the #1 seed from that year. He is critically important to the Grizzlies. They are not going to throw
All right.
him.
All right, JD. Again, my comment to you, and I love you, you drifted outside the lines of what you're qualified to comment about.
I'm not talking about basketball. I'm talking about corporations, human beings.
We're talking about the
and the
National
law.
Basketball Association. We're not talking about
We're
corporations.
mutually agreed that he's going to be penalized. He's going to be on suspension. Instead of getting $80 million, he'll get $60 million.
No, he will
Big
not.
fucking deal.
No, he will not. No, he will not.
All right.
This
Well,
is what
is
I'm
the
saying.
NBA doing a single
This is
goddamn
why
thing to understand
this is
what the
why
fuck
I
it is
am
that John
so-
Morant wants from this life? What does he want from this life?
This is why I am so delicately trying to say to you, you have drifted out of your lane here. You don't know the Basketball Association like NBA like I do. And I am telling you that he is working his way out of this league.
I'm not going to argue that.
He has worked his way already out of money. 39 million he is now foregone because he's not going to make any of the all NBA teams. So he's lost 40 million there. Nike
Can I
launched
ask you a
his
favor? Every single player who makes the all NBA team gets 40 million.
no, not every single player. It's depends. What you get is dependent upon what your agent negotiated for you in your contract. In Ja's case, making an all NBA team got him another 40 million. He's
Okay, so we're
he's
completely
forfeited.
agreed. I don't have that inside knowledge about the machinations of this.
He's forfeited that. Nike launched his
So this
shoe.
event cost him $40 million.
For starters, Nike launched his shoe prior to the video, but you can rest assured Nike is working to pull that right now. Powerade, I believe,
I'm
launched
okay with
his
all this.
Powerade, but that's lost fucking revenue. It is a big deal.
Yeah,
You
but I'm
just
saying
said
it's not a moral issue. It's not a legal issue. It's a perception issue from a corporation. And they basically managed to get adherence to that through signed contracts. I'm just saying it's not a moral issue. I'm saying John Morant technically did nothing illegal or immoral.
He did nothing illegal. He is immoral to the guidelines established in his contract. He's in violation of that.
There's no morality associated with corporate behavior.
You're wrong.
Have
You're
somebody
wrong.
sign a
You're wrong. You're wrong.
You
You're
can't
wrong.
have
You're
somebody
wrong.
sign a
You're wrong.
contract that
You're
affects
wrong.
morality.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
It
You're
can affect
wrong.
behavior.
You're
And if somebody's
wrong.
like, you know, I really wanted to pull this gun out and display it on this video,
wrong,
but I'm not
JD.
going to
You're
because I'll
wrong.
lose $40 million.
You're wrong.
That's
You're
fine.
wrong.
That
You're
is a
wrong. You're wrong.
that
You're
is
wrong.
a decision.
You're wrong, brother. You're wrong. You're wrong. We're just going to leave it there. You're wrong. You're dead wrong. And when you see,
All right, so you put a pin in 2025, losing all those newspapers. Put a pin in this one. I predict John Morant will be on the court with the NBA next year.
at what point?
At the beginning of the year.
No.
Will he
You're
still be
right. See,
suspended?
this is why
He's
I'm
not gonna
telling
get
you.
thrown out. I'm
This
saying
is
he's not
why
gonna get
I am
thrown out.
telling you, JD, you drifted out of your lane, dude.
Listen, I definitely have a lane when it comes to human behavior and profit.
No, you are not correlating.
NBA,
human
the
behavior.
Grizzlies will lose 40% of their gate receipts if they drop Morant.
Then they're going to lose 40%. And you got to
You're
understand.
not going to let him go.
JD, you're so far out of your lane. I don't want to get frustrated with you here. You're just.
I'm not talking about the NBA. I'm talking about business.
You need to hear me. You need to hear me.
I heard you, and
No, you're not hearing me. You're not
but you're
listening.
trying to change my mind, which I don't try
I'm
to
not
do.
trying to change your mind. I'm trying to educate you. You have drifted out of your lane. He is going to serve a very lengthy suspension.
We're agreed. I'm not arguing that. I'm saying he will not
then
be
he's not going to be on the court at the beginning of the year. I just asked you that.
No, but he'll be a Memphis Grizzly sitting on the bench, suspended at the beginning of the year.
No. He's already been suspended from all team activities and participation.
But he's still a Memphis Grizzly.
As of right now,
And he will remain a Memphis Grizzly, and he will return to the hardwood for the Memphis Grizzlies.
This is why I'm trying to be so patient with you. I'm
saying he's going to be in the NBA.
This is not an issue.
He's still in the NBA, so far I'm right.
This is because it just happened on Saturday, JD. We have due process. JD, you're so far out of your lane, brother. I love you.
This is easy. Let's just wait.
No, it is not easy. You're so wrong here. You're so wrong here. And I'm trying to be respectful and patient that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about here. And I'm trying to tell you.
That was respectful.
I'm trying to educate you on the realities of what's about to happen.
All right, so we need a board where we can pin stuff. I say Ja Morant remains in the NBA until the end of his career at approximately 35, 38. Although he's an ectomorph, so it'll be a trade-off. Can he?
Well, I can tell you, here's what I know. Knowing the NBA for 50 plus years, here's what I know. Your statement is full of shit, and I'm going to tell you why your statement's full of shit.
Okay. Okay.
Because if lucky, Ja Morant has one more shot.
I'll agree with that. I'm okay with that.
Hold on, let me finish. I'm going to assume at this very moment he has one more shot because the Adam Silver that I know, while disappointed, while angered with him, is most likely because of his talent to give him one more shot.
Yes, exactly.
What you are not understanding, JD, that I'm trying to get you to understand, is that the likelihood of Ja Morant taking advantage of that one last shot is extremely low. And why do I say that? Because 3 months ago, we were just here. And we're not even 3 months removed from that point, and he's already made the same mistake again.
So you're describing a Michael Vick situation.
What I'm describing to you is that I have zero confidence that Ja Morant will do what he needs to do to remain in the league.
All right, so that's an opinion. You're saying, I, Marlon, have zero confidence. So that's just your opinion. I'm saying he's still a Memphis Grizzly. He's going to remain in the NBA.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
You can't say an opinion is wrong. An opinion exists until it becomes either fact.
Well, this one is your wrong opinion is about to become fact between now and the start of the NBA season.
That's fine. That's fine. You're saying
Ja Morant is working
his membership in the NBA permanently between now and next season. I don't agree. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just saying that's my opinion.
Well, when we're on our podcast in the future and you say to me, Marlon, you were right. I should have listened to you. I will say that.
I would be like, "That's you're so right."
Ja Morant is playing.
I was wrong. You were right.
Ja Morant's playing in China, Marlon. You were right. I was wrong. I'm going to relish that moment on our podcast.
Well, but I always do that. There have been situations where I'm like, dude, you were right. I was wrong. So I don't have any trouble with it.
I'm right in this one.
You can't be pre-right.
We shall see.
If an outcome has not yet occurred, then you can't know the outcome.
See. I just told you. You
told me your opinion.
We had this
I didn't change my mind.
We had this exact same conversation 3 months ago.
Yes, and I said
here we are again.
Right, that's fine. once is random, twice is a pattern, 3 is a program. It's conceivable that after 3, there would be general consensus that we have an image problem here.
We already have an image problem.
Not for everybody.
It's thank God you're not commissioner of the NBA.
That may be true, but I'm an old white guy and I'm talking about a young black man. And I'm like, I got no problem with him carrying a gun in Tennessee.
Adam Silver
It doesn't bother
does.
me a bit.
Adam Silver does, because Adam Silver's not looking
It's
at
an
him
image
as a,
thing, and he signed a contract.
Adam Silver
If he
is not
wasn't in the NBA, we'd never be hearing about this.
that is true, but he
Right,
is in
so the
NBA.
whole thing revolves around the
But
NBA.
he
It doesn't
is
revolve
in the-
around business or
he-
humanity or guns or anything. It's just
Yes,
the
it
fucking-
does. Yes, it does.
No,
The
it
NBA
doesn't. It's because he signed a contract. That's the only reason it's localized to the NBA.
The NBA
There's nothing
is the
in his
NBA.
behavior that is
Oh
immoral.
God, JD, you're so far out. I got to stop this conversation. You're so far out of your depths, man. You really are. You really are. You really are, man.
If we went into a court of law, they'd be like, Mr. Wilson, what's your point? I would say, my point is he did nothing illegal or immoral, and all of his problems relate to the contract he signed with the NBA, which is clearly going to cost him a lot of money. And then he needs to make a decision.
It's going to cost him
He
his
needs to make a
career.
decision whether he's going to test the water and do it again and risk the probability of being tossed out of the league. So is it your opinion, Mr. Wilson, that he would be tossed out of the league if he did it again? I would say, I can't tell you that for sure. My friend Marlon says
He's
yes.
got one foot out the door.
He gets
He
tossed
has one foot out the door right now.
Right. And I would say I'd like to bring an expert witness, Mr. Marlon Taylor, who's going to tell you why, if he does it again, he is likely to be
No,
ejected.
not likely. Not likely.
Oh,
not likely.
my expert witness is totally
He
confident.
will be playing in China.
China. Okay. All
He
right.
has.
We're in a good place. I agree with you on every aspect of it except the illegal and immoral.
It's not illegal based on the state laws of Tennessee. It's
Agreed.
immoral to the agreement he signed.
You cannot have an agreement about morality.
Yes, you can.
That's my opinion.
Your opinion is
trying to
wrong.
change your mind.
Your opinion is wrong. Your opinion is wrong.
And my opinion is my opinion.
Is there a code, is there a standard for code of behavior and ethics at Amazon, at Microsoft, at Google?
Yes, the code is maximize profit and destroy the lives of individual human beings to ensure this happens.
No.
Yeah, there is no moral code.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And you know there is. You know there is.
I have never.
You're being disingenuous. You're being
morality.
You're being disingenuous right now.
I'm not being disingenuous.
There is a standard in the employee handbook for a code of ethics and behavior at major corporations like Google, Microsoft.
Yeah, they're like, we don't want you to cast aspersions on our organization and make us look bad. But that's
You're beholden.
that is a governing principle. That is not a moral position.
You, as a member of Microsoft, Amazon, Google, whoever else you want to include, you are
You're treating
beholden
them as
to
arbiters of morality.
You are beholden to a standard of behavior.
Yeah, if you want to stay employed.
Right.
Right, but that's not meaningful. Conducting yourself in a fashion that keeps you employed is not morality. There might be an intersection like, I'm afraid we're going to have to let you go because you murdered this person. Well, the issue is not that it was in the code of ethics of the corporation that said don't murder people. It's because it's a much larger issue. I don't look to corporations in any way, shape, or form for anything. I don't even look to them for the M in moral. Most assuredly not the O, the R, the A, or the L. There's no aspect of a corporation's behavior that gives it any type of moral standing.
When is the last time you worked for a corporation?
1990.
Your Honor, I rest my case. I rest my case right there. I rest my case right there.
And this is
You haven't read an employee handbook, which is completely different from your day, the last time you read one, to what exists today.
The degree of immorality from corporations is insane.
I'm not talking about
omnipresent
morality.
and
I'm talking about a standard
You
of
can't
the.
have an immoral organization that is predicating morality for individuals who just happen to intersect with it for some period of time. Let me give you an example. The most cited example is that Google willfully removed "do no harm" from their corporate mission statement. They did that like 5-8 years ago. Everybody's like, Google removed that statement. So that shows some sense of self-awareness.
Why do you think?
Sergey
Why
Brin
do
and Larry
you?
Page.
Why do you think? And I know you're kind of just getting back into the middle lane on the highway. Why do you think so many people on social media in their bio include the statement, "Opinions are my own"? Why do you think they do that?
Because the opinions are their own. I could do
No,
that. I could have a little
no,
thing that says the
no,
opinions are my own.
no, no, no. That is a very distinct separation between what they think and what they want to say versus what they're beholden to in their employee agreement with the organization they represent.
You know, every once in a while this happens and I really appreciate it. Yes, exactly. I'm saying that the person's life is utterly, totally, completely independent, especially as it relates to morality.
But why do you include that
Their
statement?
opinions are their own.
Why do they include
Thank you
that
for that.
statement?
I needed that
Why
reinforcement
do they include that statement?
because their opinions are their own. It's a statement of
No,
fact.
they include it because they don't want to get fired.
Right,
Or-
but you're talking about morality. You've actually presented a concept that corporations, through their codes of ethics, are bringing some type of moral authority to a human existence during the tenure that they have at that
What
corporation.
else is the code
And
of
I'm
ethics?
saying, I don't agree. That's all.
What else is that code of ethics? What else is it?
You can't have an unethical person with a corporation with a code of ethics. Any corporation that is motivated by profit has actually achieved terminal velocity, and they're no longer concerned with the human condition. They're concerned with perception. They're concerned with their profile in the marketplace.
They're concerned with who
pushback.
represents them.
Okay, let me give you a good example. There was a period of experimentation over the last 5 or so years with ESG, which is environmental, societal, and governmental. There's a lot of experimentation with ESG. That has all gone by the fucking wayside. There was a lot of experimentation with climate goals. All of that is just quietly going away. They tried it. It brought them some press. And now it's not actually part of the moral fiber of a corporation to do these things. So they're going to do a minimal amount or an amount that's consistent with their specific board of directors.
Disagree.
But it's going to be dictated not by some overarching compelling moral balance in the universe. It's going to be dictated by the impact on their profits. That's why all these things are being released. All these concerns are just going by the wayside.
Complete disagreement.
When they had that massive layoff where they had hundreds of thousands of people laid off from the major tech corporations, a statistically significant percentage of those were the ESG departments, which were wiped out, vaporized.
Not going to argue that.
No, these are people that came on primarily during COVID, and people were paying attention to this kind of thing. And a lot of those people were let go, gone. It's off the table because it doesn't suit anybody's purpose. The payback is not
sufficient. In today's session, which we're going to wrap up because I'm sure we're over, you and I agree to disagree about many of things, including that last one. And why do I say that? Because there are corporations here in the Pacific Northwest who are continuing to lead that charge, lead that effort, Climate Pledge Arena being at the top of that list, whose goal is zero carbon emissions by a certain period in time. Has nothing to do with people, has nothing to do with profit. They're leading that charge and effort because they know we have to get there. As I've said many a time on this podcast, we're well into the fourth quarter. which is, and how does Marlon know that? Marlon knows that because we're 16 days into May, and the last 5 days have been the hottest freaking days of the year this early in the season. It's not changing. Science doesn't change. The science is the science, and there are corporations who understand that and continue to lead that effort that have nothing to do with people and profit, because it's the right thing to do.
I'm simply maintaining that those efforts are throttled by profitability. There's not going to be any profit sacrifice to achieve those goals. If you can reduce your total electric bill by embracing renewables, that goes to the bottom line. It's a self-funding benefit, and it's a contribution to climate control. But I'm saying that you're not going to be able to consistently demonstrate corporations willfully abandoning revenue and profit for moral reasons. There is no evidence of this. Nobody's doing it. I haven't seen anybody do it, with the very few exceptions, like maybe veterinarians.
I'm not
don't know.
equating climate change to a moral reason.
Well, you're saying that this code of that you're saying that there are companies that are exerting themselves and they are actually trading profitability and revenue to make a dent in climate change. I'm saying that if you look inside of the constructs, that's not true. This has been a huge fucking problem with the way corporations report. Now,
Well, we're different here.
You've
we're
never
different.
run a corporation. I have run a corporation. Now, one of the things that corporations actually don't like is clear, raw profit that is unencumbered by expenses or any type of other mitigation.
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that.
All right. So a lot of these things that you're treating as moral positives, they are treated as expenses, and they reduce profitability. They don't reduce the cash. They actually reduce the profitability, and they get credit for it. It's just like buying an EV. You got a $7,500 credit. So a lot of these behaviors are being funded by the government, and they are contributing materially to the bottom line at the same time that they're participating in a reduction in emissions or trying to get their electric bill under control. But there is no intrinsic morality in any for-profit corporation, because there cannot be. If a corporation demonstrates that it is willing to sacrifice profit for any reason, it will slowly be throttled.
No.
It will initially be throttled in.
We're in a different world out here than the rest of you meat sacks, because in the Pacific Northwest, we understand impact. We understand short and long-term goals with respect to climate change. And I'm witnessing it, I'm living it, because as I've said several times, I moved here to Seattle. One of the attractions in moving here was the climate, was the fact that it never got below freezing, and it rarely got above 90 degrees in a given year, anytime throughout the year. That is completely out the window now, completely. As I am, again, just indicated, the
Well,
last
you feel better off than a lot of people because you're up there.
But yes,
Well, you
but
have El Nino is going to be changing.
But Climate Pledge Arena is one of those examples where we're saying, okay, how do we maintain profitability but have impact to what we're witnessing to the science? And they are making that choice. They are doing that. That's why Climate Pledge is named.
I'm not going to argue with you on that. I'm sure you're right. What I'm saying is that the examples of revenue and profit conservation are more readily available than actual environmental conservation. And I would not look to any corporation for either moral standing or as a leader in an initiative. I think all of these things.
Oh, I disagree with that. Oh, dude, where have you been?
observing.
No, you haven't. Obviously you haven't.
Actually, no, I'm
Obviously you haven't.
moderately well informed. Not
I
about sports so much, but
I don't know about this topic. I don't know about this topic. There are many corporations who are trying to eliminate waste, who are trying to eliminate carbon emissions, who are leading the charge in those areas.
okay.
Amazon being one of them. You can laugh, but they are leading that effort in charge to reduce both. What? Which is why their fleet now,
Okay.
which is why their fleet now is starting to become more and more EV versus gas powered.
So you attribute the electrification of their fleet to good works.
No, to their overall initiative to reduce carbon emissions. Is it cheaper?
Expenditures. One of the things that Amazon is famous for is no profit.
Is it cheaper
So
than
they have excess profit and they want to even it out so they don't have to pay taxes on it. So they can go
Right.
back to zeroing it out.
right?
They do that by making capital investments in EVs that are going to return operating capital over the out years. They are doing this for financial reasons.
While
They're
it
not doing it for
reduces,
moral
while it
against
reduces,
climate change reasons.
while it reduces carbon output.
You're beating me to it. I'm exactly agreeing with you. I'm just saying the reasons these corporations do things aren't moral. They are financial. You can have a benefit,
You're wrong, JD.
but the source and the
You're
reason
wrong.
for the benefit
You're wrong. I'm
is
not saying
not morality.
I'm not saying,
And
I'm
if the
not
benefit
saying,
didn't have an attendant financial
I'm not saying,
aspect to it, then they would abandon it.
I'm not saying to you that corporations have morality at the top
That's
of
exactly
their.
what you're saying.
No, I'm
You're
not.
saying
No,
it
I'm not.
originates in the code
No,
of
I'm not.
ethics. It
No,
filters
I'm not.
down to the individuals and then is reflected in their efforts on climate change. And I'm saying that's not my opinion. I don't agree.
Okay, well,
I
we
didn't
agree.
say you're wrong. You'll notice I don't say you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. I just say I don't agree.
Well, with basketball and Ja Morant, I said you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. We'll prove that out. With corporations, I
John
know
Morant
which.
will be a Memphis Grizzly next
All
year.
right, all right, all right. You assume that he will do everything as you did 3 months ago to get back in standing in the NBA. I'm telling you
I don't
no.
no, I didn't
I'm
judge
telling
him
you
till
no.
3 months ago.
I'm
And I
telling
said,
you.
yeah, logic would tell us that a human being would protect their money.
Well,
But
he hasn't done that.
I couldn't imagine him doing this again.
He hasn't done that. He hasn't done it. He just lost money because he didn't do it.
Agreed. What I'm saying is that I did not make a blanket statement that he would take an interest in never pulling a gun again. It seemed entirely probable to me that he would pull a gun again.
Not to me. Excuse me.
Videotaped.
Not to me.
Videotaped it.
Given his level of intelligence, given his history.
What did you just say?
Let me finish.
You think this
Given
has to do with intelligence?
Given his level of intelligence, given his history, given what he put at risk to lose, I took him at face value that he would make the commitment. But, and there's always a but, this is where I quote Maya Angelou. People are who they are the first time they show you, which is why I knew we would be here again, because it's not what you say, it's what you do. And in 3 months, he has shown us who he is again.
He's not making good decisions.
So what makes you believe he's going to make the right decisions to stay in the
Because it doesn't matter what he does, because the NBA does not want to lose the best player from that class. If you go a decade,
we need to end this discussion. We really need to end this discussion.
just make a note. You're right. We're getting
more important to the NBA than losing Ja Morant from that class is their reputation and image that they have worked so hard to restore. You can shake your head all you want. I'm telling you what the reality is. I'm telling you the reality. I'm telling you the reality of where we are with the National Basketball Association. They have worked tirelessly to restore what was lost with the malice in the palace. And that was over 20 years ago. You got to remember, JD, this is the only of the professional sports league that's 85, 90% Black. So there's always going to be an image issue for them. So if you have behavior like, you're one of the few. When you have behavior like this, it has impact to those who are spending money with you who are predominantly white, because you can't take a family of 4 to an NBA game because you can't afford to. So what I'm saying to you is that the NBA is bigger picture thinking. Adam Silver is bigger picture thinking that we can't afford to go back to the malice in the palace. We cannot afford this behavior because we will lose revenue. We will lose viewership. We will lose sponsorship. All of those things equate to the bottom line. They're not about to put that at risk for anybody, including Ja Morant. Now, one thing I didn't touch on was how does Ja Morant fix this? We'll touch on that another time. I kind of briefly skimmed that surface. If you want to get off drugs, you can't hang out with people who do drugs. If you want to be sober and clean, you can't be with people who drink. So you have to remove yourself from that element. I eloquently gave an example of this just yesterday, and I'll quickly wrap the show up with it. There was, back in the day, you traveled, and I've got a book over my shoulder, and I'll bring it on a future podcast and give you the name of the book. But it's a book that I bought about a year ago that highlights all of the great locations around the District, Maryland, and Virginia for amateur basketball, pickup basketball, the most infamous of courts. And back in my day, you had kind of your traveling 5, right? You would go Sunday morning, we'd be at Sligo. Thursday night, we'd be at Candy Cane in Mount Rainier, wherever they may be. You took your 5, you went, you did battle. One of my 5 was one of my closest friends that I've ever had. I'm, in fact, godfather to his daughter. But this friend, and I'm not going to name him, those who know me know who he is. This friend was, for lack of a better description, a kleptomaniac. And he was purely a thief. And I knew that if I didn't separate from him, I'm going to follow him down that path. Now, I didn't have millions at stake and at risk, but I knew enough that if I don't remove myself from that element with him, I'm going to end up like him. And he died in prison many, many years ago. And I knew that. So how do I fix the behavior and the pattern that I'm in? I got to remove myself from it. Same thing with Ja Morant. You want to fix this? You got to remove yourself from that element. There's only one avenue here. Now,
that makes perfect sense. I wouldn't argue that.
Can he do it in time and enough to save his career? We will find that out.
We will find that out.
Woo!
Woo! All right, so
I love sessions.
probably
I
coming
love.
up on an hour. We should nip it.
We should. I love sessions like this. A lot of fireworks, a lot of passion, which we typically bring.
Well, I agree with you. So in the end, we agree. The only question is what will happen in the future. And I'm just saying the future isn't here. I can't say.
No, the future is not here, but we have history to formulate the opinion on what we think that future is going to be.
True. All right. Well, on that note, sir, hey, this is our first official
First world, third rails, and we
First
touched
world,
on
third rails.
every third rail there is to touch on today.
Oh, no. We got lots.
I know. We got more.
From Lowe's to Home. We never got to Home Depot. I wanted to find out what the hell's
Oh
going on.
yeah, we'll talk
Don't
about
start.
that. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a future episode.
All right, bud.
As I do at the close of every show, to however many of you are out there tolerating two old fogies like us go back and forth. We love you. We appreciate you. We are up and running on First World Third Rails on Twitter, Spoutable, YouTube. I think we're on Twitch, aren't we?
Well, if we ever go on Twitch, that'll be us, but we may
That'll
go
be
live
us.
on YouTube. I guess it's a function of where we would go live.
Of where we would go live. But our brand is up and running. Please like us, please watch us, and more importantly, please subscribe to us. And we hope to see you on a future podcast.
Amen. All right,
Amen,
bud.
brother.
Take us out.
Have a good one.